Hey there, welcome to my new video, and today we are going to talk about Next.js. Not only that, we are going to build something cool while learning Next.js and Tailwind CSS. So what are we going to build today? We are going to build a newsletter. Do you have a newsletter or do you consider to have one? In that case, you might know that newsletter is very useful for you to share your views, share your products, share about your life, something that you feel suitable to share with your subscribers. Now there are plenty of vendors already out there who provides awesome newsletter and the edition creation, the issue creations, the editorial newsletter basically. Recently, there is one that in the market and making a lot of buzz. It's called Revue. So Revue is backed by Twitter, and this is a free editorial newsletter making and management tool where you can go and start creating your account, start making your newsletter issues, manage them pretty easily. And if you have a Twitter account, it's nothing like that. The integration is much seamless. Now once you have a newsletter, there are few ways that you can actually market it. One way is like you share that link over various social media and tell your friends to join and subscribe to your newsletter. Second thing, if you have a website or a portfolio site, you can actually take the HTML, CSS or the JavaScript code snippet provided by the newsletter vendors and embed them into your website or portfolio, and then a small subscription form start appearing over there and your users basically start subscribing. The third way is if the newsletter vendor expose certain APIs to deal with the data, basically the data model that the newsletter requires, you can actually have much more power. You can use those APIs to build your own UI that suits and goes with your websites or portfolios look and feel, and build a completely integrated solution. So today in this video we are going to talk about this third option, where I'll be building a Next.js app with the help of Revue API. I'll be using Tailwind CSS to make things look a bit beautiful. We'll use Next.js API route to make the call to Revue APIs, and we're going to build something cool. So the same thing, whatever we are building, you should be able to use in your website, in your portfolio, and manage the newsletter completely in isolation in your website or portfolio. I am building my website, I'm actually rebuilding my website with Next.js right now, and I am doing the same thing. So that's what I thought is an opportunity to catch up on this topic. Now before we get started, if you like this video, please subscribe to my channel, or if you want to kind of communicate with me, connect with me, I'm always available on Twitter. My Twitter handle is there in the description of this video. Please feel free to reach out and comment. So let's get started with some coding. Okay, so to get started, what we need is we need to create a project using Next.js, and then we have to install the libraries to have Tailwind CSS and make it Tailwind CSS powered Next.js app. Now that's gonna take some time. Why don't we save that time? Why don't we use a skeleton or a boilerplate that is already available to help us doing the same thing? So for that, you can actually search on GitHub. Like there are plenty of boilerplate or plenty of skeletons available that help you to get started with Next.js and Tailwind CSS quite fast. You don't have to worry about installation. You don't have to worry about the configurations and things like that. You just get a skeleton, and on top of that you can start building your app. As our primary focus today is to build the newsletter app and to see how the API routes and things like that work, we won't be focusing too much into this configuration. So for that, what we can do, I have my own favorite template to get started with the Next.js and Tailwind stuff. So this is called Next Starter Tailwind. I'm going to share this link in the description of the video. So this is a template. So I can use this template by clicking on this use this template button, and can give a name to this particular repo. So what will happen? This is going to create a new repo in my GitHub account taking this template as is. and then I just have to install the dependencies using npm install or yarn install command, and then I can just start the app running locally with the yarn dev or npm run dev command, right? So I have already created a project with this, and I have cloned that project into my local repository, and I have imported that into my favorite VS Code editor. So what we are going to do now is, like, we are going to first understand what is the project structure, then we'll be installing the dependencies, and then you'll be running the project and just get started with our work. All right. So let's run the project structure first. So this project is having a few important aspects. So let me just go through that. So one is called pages. What is pages is, in Next.js, the entry point is the index.js. Basically, your home page where you land in the application is the index.js. After that, every route or every URL that you traverse should be mapped to each of these pages. So for example, if your app is having a /about or about page, you should have a pages called about.js, and inside that you should have the code to get the UI for your about page. Like that, if you want a page called, say, blog, you should have a blog.js which will be like mapped to a route called /blog. So every page that you create, Next.js uses the file system to build his route so that it can directly map to his route. So we have some pages already. I see, like, we have index.js, about.js. This is coming from that starter and the boilerplate. We have not started doing any coding so far. So what we are going to do is we are going to do some modification, very minor modification, and then we will see like how the things are reflecting. But before that, let's go ahead and install the dependencies. So to install dependency, you can use npm install or just the yarn command. I think I have already installed the dependencies, so it should just say that the dependencies are installed. Yep, so it's already up to date. So it means that dependencies are already installed. So next thing we'll be doing is we'll be starting the app with yarn dev or npm run dev command. So let's do yarn dev. So once you do yarn dev, the app will run on localhost 3000. So you can use the localhost 3000 to get the app on your browser. For the first time, it will be a bit slow to load it because it compiles the entire project. But next time onwards, it is only the changes that gets in is get compiled, so it will be much more faster. So yeah, let's go ahead and try to pull this up over here. So I have localhost 3000. So it will take some time over here. So as you see, it has compiled successfully, and I see that the UI is up and running. So this UI is coming from our starter project. So the first thing that we can do probably is to change certain strings and the names and all to make this app look like our own. And also while doing that, we learn skeleton of this app a bit, right? So what is there in the index.js file? So index.js file is having an image and then a h2. Hi, welcome to our first Next.js site. So if I go, it's an image. And then, hi, welcome to our first Next.js site. Great. But it also has a header and as a kind of footer. And I don't see that header and footer whatsoever over here. So what happened? Where exactly it is coming from? If I go to this about page, this page is again going to get compiled. You see this symbol, it means that it is going to get compiled. And this happens only when you are running the things in the development mode. In production, everything is pre-compiled. So it's pre-rendered, so things will be much faster. So if I click on the about page, and once the about page comes up, what I'm going to see same header and same footer, right? So in the meantime, while it is loading, if I go to the about page and see the code of this about page, okay, there is something about Tailwind, there is something about Next.js, there is an image. I still don't see any header, any footer code in this particular component. So let's see if it is loaded by this time. It is still taking some time, so let it load. Okay, so we have this image, we have this about Tailwind, Next.js, but header and footer code is not there. So that means the header and footer is there somewhere in common. And our intention is like every page that we build in this application, there will be a standard header and footer always. Once you have such a requirement, you can build layouts and have those layouts into a special file called underscore app.js file, which is the root of your project. So if I go to underscore app.js, what I'm seeing, like, yes, there is a layout, of course, and inside layout there is a head. This head is basically to define the title of the app, the meta information, and then most importantly this component. These components are each of the component that we see, like including my index.js or any other page components that are coming in, that will be rendered over here, rendered and replaced over here at the runtime. So what we'll be doing is, like, let's change a few things. So Next.js, we'll say, instead of saying Next.js, we'll say newsletter. Maybe Next.js powered newsletter. All right. So we have this one quite well. I'm seeing that now I have a layout that is coming from components folder. So let's go inside components folder, and I see a layout over here. Inside layout, I see there is a header. There is a main where each of these children are coming. Basically, each of the pages are coming, and there is a footer. So let's go to the header once quickly, and maybe what we can do, we don't need this Tailwind logo over here. We'll remove this. We'll say this is our newsletter as a header. That's pretty much it on the header. Then let's go to the footer once. What we can quickly do about footer is, like, we'll probably change this name to make it our own. Yeah, you can do the same thing, or you can just leave it, So I just probably want to give my social media URL over here. So let's do that. Right, and you can also give this particular project's GitHub ID that we can change later. So we'll save this. So as we save, we should be able to see these changes reflecting in the app as soon we kind of make these changes. So let's go ahead to the app and start refreshing this one to see the changes. Here you go. I see newsletter over here. I see my name, which is also pointing to my Twitter. That's great. Let me go back to home. Home is still having the old stuff. Now the next thing that we want to do, we are talking about a newsletter. So what we are going to do now while building the newsletter is, we are going to get a subscription form. The subscription form our users, our subscribers are going to use to fill up and subscribe to our newsletter. Let's assume that we need an email mandatorily. So the email is completely required to subscribe, and there will be a first name and last name required. Those are kind of optional. But hey, wait, there is one thing that we are forgetting. We are talking about a particular newsletter service called Revue, right? We just spoke about it in the beginning. So Revue is from Twitter. I just want to give you a glimpse of Revue, right? And then we are going to talk about is, like, how we'll be integrating Revue with the Next.js app. So let's go ahead and start seeing Revue. To get Revue, you have to go to literally get Revue. And as I have already signed up and authenticated, what I'll see is, like, it's going to take me to my newsletter that I have just created. So let's see. All right. So I have one test issue created, and if I go to my subscriber, I have some test subscribers. I'm testing things. So this is basically the interface for Revue. And then what you can do, you can create issues, you can schedule the issues. I have created this issue for test. You can connect different services. You can connect basically any RSS feed, maybe of your blog, your Twitter account. You can connect many other sources like Facebook, Instagram. If you have a blog or Medium, you can connect Medium. You can connect Stripe. Many applications you can connect, and you can get data actually from many other applications to build up an issue for a newsletter. So which is really cool stuff for this newsletter. So yeah, this is the integration page. Now the same integration page, if I keep scrolling down, at the bottom of the page you will find one important information. You will find something called API key. I'm not scrolling down completely here because I don't want to expose my API key in this video, but if you scroll down to this slash integration page, you will get an API key. You have to take this API key and keep it safe, because we are going to use the same API key to start making calls to Revue APIs to get data, so that we can start creating a interactive subscription form into our app, right? Now, hey, I just spoke about Revue API. So where exactly those Revue APIs are and how do they look? So let's go ahead and get Revue API. So I should see some such result coming up sooner. Yeah, so this is their API server, and let's try to understand like what kind of services the APIs provide. All right. So the Revue API require something called authorization header for making any of the API call, and the value of the authorization header is token/my token. This my token is what I asked you to take from this integration page, bottom of the integration page. Now there are various APIs are there. You can actually take any issue item. You can actually like add an item to an issue. Like who are your subscribers, the list of subscribers. Then you can add a subscriber to the list. You can update. You can do a lot of things. For our application, the focus is only three things. One, we want to add a subscriber to our list from our newsletter form. Then we want to show the list of subscriber count, like how many subscribers I have into our UI. And next thing we want to do, we want to list down all the issues. Basically, I have already published, in my case, it is only one test issue. I want to get a list. So that's our objective. So basically, we need this API, return the list of subscribers, /v2/subscribers. We need this API, add subscriber to the list. Other one was get. This is post, and then we need the list of issues. Returns the list of sent issues. So these are the three APIs that we'll be talking about. Okay, so first thing first that we have to do is to get the API key from this page and make it available to our application, right? And so how do I do that? You can do in few ways. One, the most straightforward way would be, or more secured way would be, creating a special file called .env.local, and then have your keys as an environment variable. So let's do that. What we'll do is, at the root of your project folder, create a file called env.local. So I already have an env.local, and I would have done this already. Like I would have put the key and the value already in that particular file. So how you should be putting this into your file is kind of very simple. What you need to do is basically, I'll just show you in a second. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So what we'll be doing is, like in the .env.local file, you can add a key like this Revue_API_key that I have added, and here you will be pasting the API. So it is basically your API key, right? That's what you're going to paste over here. So I have my API key, and I'll be pasting my API key so that things will start working for me. In your case, you get that API key and paste it over here, and just save it and keep it. We are going to use this in a while, right? So before we move on further, what we are going to do next is, like, we are going to first create a subscription form. So the subscription form will help us with the user can come there, put their email, hit on a button, and say, like, we'll then call the API, Revue subscribe API, to get the things, get that particular user subscribe. Okay, so let's do that part. Okay, time to clean up all this. We don't want, because we are not going to make any of these code changes. So what we'll be doing is we'll have a components folder already. So first thing to do, let's create a component called subscribe, right? And in that component is going to have one form in it, right? So that's a very simple component that we'll be creating now. All right, so let's create this subscribe.js. all right, so what it's supposed to have is, it will be a normal React component. So we'll be creating a normal React component as const subscribe okay, and in this, as a normal React component, it has a return, so that whatever the UI render part we are going to write there. And then finally what we'll be doing is like, we'll be doing export default subscribe. Will be exporting this component. So it's a very basic React component. Now what we'll be doing is like, we'll be start adding the UI element. So let's add a div, like a kind of container div, and inside that div, what we're going to do, we are going to add few simple stuff. So let's first add a paragraph, and the paragraph can give certain things, is like, some catchy word. Hey, want to get updated about UI UX things, please subscribe, right? A simple P, right? And then what we can do is like, we can probably add one more P tag, and I kind of like breaking things like this so that it doesn't go very lengthy in your screen. So the next thing that we want to do is like, enter your email ID, right? So these are the two things that we told. And then the next thing that we want to do is, basically we just want to get started with the form. Let's not make it very complex. So we have form. Inside form, there are two things that we are expecting. One is input element, which is like not text, it's like email, and then it can have a placeholder maybe. Yeah, so placeholder will indicate like what will be there in the, how the email should look like, something like this, so that user know easily like what we are expecting. It is a required field, of course. Yeah, it's a required field. And then what else? I think that's all for now. We will come back to it if something else is required later point of time. So input field is done, and the next thing that is required, another important part, is a button, basically. So we have a button. It is a submit button, and we will make the submit button as a type, also as a submit type equals to submit. So I have kind of basic UI ready, like with the subscription UI ready. So that's kind of it. And there's one more thing that I want to kind of show in my this form, is like, I want to show the subscriber count and how many issues that I have. That count I want to show. So for that, let me put a P placeholder, and I can tell like I have 14 subscribers, and then go off, and then I have, say, 3 issues, something like that, right? Like that I can actually give, I can give a hyphen separator or maybe a dot separator, anything is fine. That's pretty much is my subscribe component is. Now I have a component. What I'll do is like, I'll go to the index.js, which is a landing page, and I don't need any of this stuff. I'm just going to remove everything. I don't need this image import also. Instead of that, I'm going to import subscribe from, I'm going to do add components / my subscribe component. This is the one, right? So yeah, that is done. Now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to use this component because that's where our form resides, and I'm going to save it. So just to recap what I did, I created a simple subscribe form which is having a few P's to indicate like what exactly the expectation, a simple email input and a button, and a placeholder like how many subscribers I've hard coded now. We'll be kind of replacing this with actual value in a while. And in the index.js I came in, I like imported the subscribe, and then I have used the subscribe component. So if I go now my UI, where exactly it is here. I'm going to refresh this guy. I just want to see like what comes up. Okay, so it will compile, so it should see compile successfully. Yep. So I have first P, hey, you want to get blah blah, please subscribe, enter your email ID. This is actually text field, then a submit button, then this things. So I have a form ready. So practically I can start coding, like, click on submit button, what should happen. But this UI looks really messed up. So let's try to, get this UI a bit working, look and feel wise working condition, right? So that's where we are going to use Tailwindcss. So Tailwind is a very developer friendly CSS library, which, now is the talk of the town. You can go to tailwindcss.com and try to see, like, try to learn about it, try to read about it. But while, adding some of the class names here itself, you will realize like how easy it is basically to use. So let's get started with this div. To use Tailwind classes, utility classes, we'll be using the attribute called class name. That's the way you actually define classes in React components. So you have class name. So let us start with giving maybe border to it, and then give color to our border, and then we will make the border rounded. Then we give a padding of 6, and then some margin of 4, and then we want it to be a full width, and let's put a background also. So let's put a maybe a BG gray of 50. Yeah. So that's kind of our outside skeletons, the outside divs classes. So I save this one, and let's go ahead and see like how these things kind of gets reflected once this compilation is done. It's still compiling. Once the compilation is done, we should be able to see this. Compilation done. We are seeing these things getting reflected. So, as you think like what to style, you start writing your style, and you start seeing it. So that is what I like very much with Tailwind. It's just really awesome. So this part is done. Now let's start, coding the styles for other pieces. So we'll get to the next P. Similarly, we'll add a class name. And with this class name, what should be, let's add text color, text gray, maybe 900, and then we'll make this text a little bigger, so we can do a large one, and maybe we can do like 6. So let's see how is this hey get updated things goes. And for the next one also at the same time, let me put a class name of last one we given 900, right? So this one will make a little bit lesser tone, so we'll make it 800. The text color, make it say 10, and then we get a text space, right? So each of this definition, even if you don't understand right now, you can always refer to Tailwind CSS documentation. It is very well documented, and you can actually learn it much faster, right? So we'll go to our UI. Yeah, so you see like this is a little bigger, this is little smaller, they also have some spaces, so this is good. Now the next thing we want to do is like we want to style this guy, and this guy once quick. So let's go ahead and do that style. Let's do the style of the form. So we'll put a class name, make it as a relative, Okay, and we also give some margin over there. That's all about the form. Then let's make this guy a little more beautiful up with this style. We can give some padding to this guy, maybe Y padding so that we get some height. X padding we probably don't need at this stage. We can give a yeah, text MD. Yeah, let's do with the text MD. Let's go ahead with the background as maybe transparent. I guess it's there. Yeah, background as transparent. Whatever the text over there we'll write, we'll be making a text gray, say 900, and then let's give a border. Yeah, so that we feel it's a kind of proper text box. Let's give a border color also, let's say border gray of 600. Anything we don't want, we want to put a focus maybe when somebody is coming over here, so we'll do focus hyphen. I guess this is I think it is focus hyphen visible. Yeah, focus hyphen, I think focus hyphen visible, and then outline is none. When we are getting the focus inside the text box, there is no outline, and when we are getting in, when the focus is coming in, that time we'll get the border basically. So this is what it says. So we have added a lot of style over here, basically to giving some pixel, giving some padding, giving some margin. We want to make the background transparent, giving the text color when somebody type on it, given a border, and then make sure like when focus is visible, when somebody put focus in this text box, there is no outline, and when somebody out of focus, we get to see the border outline over there. So let's see like how is the successfully done. Yeah, we have a text box, not bad. So when I'm going this way, it's kind of working the way it is expected. Now next thing is like we'll be doing the submit button, so that should be pretty simple to do. So let's go ahead and break this first. Let's break this for much simplicity. All right, so let's add a class name. Class name equals to what will be the class is flex, justify center, and then we can give some padding stuff. Then we give some background stuff, maybe 600. Yeah, then we make the text as white. Okay, we'll make the font is bit bold so that it looks a little bit okay, and we'll make the text also a bit large. So that's all. Our button stuff is done. I think I would have screwed or something. Okay, it's here. All right, so the button stuff is done. We are done, and the last thing probably is to this particular P with some kind of subtle style. We can actually make this P also look a little bit better. We can choose to do now, or we can choose to do later also, but let's get the styling part done completely. So let's do this class name equals to text, a small text, and then we'll make this text as center. No, I don't want to center this. I want this to be left aligned. So let's make that text as Excel, so it's a very little larger text, and then we will do text gray color 800. That's pretty much it. I think I'm good with this. Let's save it. All right, so let's go ahead and see how the things are. Yeah, we have a submit button, but I gave it a white color. I don't know why it didn't take the white color for button. Maybe some, didn't I give white? Yeah, I given a text white. You should have taken a text white. I guess this is the one. Yeah, this is the one. So yeah, so this is how it is. So we have everything. Now the next thing is like we should be connecting things to our Revue API to get our subscriber done whenever somebody is typing and clicking over here, right? So let's do that. So what we'll be doing is like we'll be taking help of something called API route in Next.js. What exactly API route is like? This is a fascinating thing that is in Next.js. Like you can create APIs very easily just by following certain rules. The rule number one is if you want to create an API endpoint, let's say I want to create an API endpoint called subscribe, like /API/subscribe. You have to create a folder called API inside pages, and inside that you need to have a file, a new file called subscribe.js. If you have this, you are actually done the first step of getting subscribe API up and running. The next thing that you will be doing is put a definition like what exactly this API is going to do. So the API route in Next.js is nothing but the Node.js serverless functions. So it has its own construct. The construct is you do like export default, a regular export default. We'll be making some Revue API calls from here, using the fetch and all. So it means fetch returns a promise. So for that we have to use an await. So we have to make this particular function as an async function, right? So we'll make this function as async function, and then the construct is it has to be a handler, and it takes two parameters, request and response, right? And then from this function, if you return a response, that's all become your API. So now if you call /API/subscribe, basically you get a response from this particular API. Now what we are going to do in this API? In this API, what we're going to do, we are going to take the email ID that somebody will be filling up from the UI and then submit. We'll take this email ID over here, and then we'll pass this email ID to Revue API and then try to create a subscriber, right? Now you might get a question, if Revue is already having an API, why am I not calling this API directly from my component? I have a subscribe component, I can always use a fetch and call from there. Why I have to create a API route? Why I have to create a serverless function and to do all this circus? Yeah, so there is a specific reason for that. The reason is you can actually separate out the concern. So tomorrow, if you don't want Revue as your newsletter service, but you want something else, right? You might want MailChimp or anything else. So in that case, you don't want your UI to change anyway. You don't want to touch that UI piece at all. Your component is completely separated out. What you will be doing is like you'll be coming here and simply you will be changing certain URLs, certain parameters, you are done. Even if there is a separate team which is working in the UI, they are kind of least affected by it, because the response that you will be returning from this function is completely up to you. The response also not going to change. You are going to change the portion where you are communicating with that third party service. So that is why it is very good to keep this abstraction in place and having it in this API way. All right. So the first thing that we are going to do is like we are expecting from the request.body is the payload, right? That somebody will be sending from the UI. In the request.body, we are expecting an email. So first we will take out this email, and after taking out that email, what we are going to do, we are going to do simple validation. Like if the email is passed by chance, a blank email. So in this case, a blank email case, what we are going to do, we are going to return an error response. So what we'll do, res, the response dot status 400. We are going to send a JSON instead, and we are going to say that boss, this is an error, and is an error message is the email is empty, right? So this is not a valid email basically. So this is what I'm going to send. So you're saying At this point itself, if you call this API without passing an email, you're going to get a response. It's a very working API at this stage itself. But this is not the one that we want. We want to take this email and want to do something. So what we can do, we'll have a try catch so that in case there is an error, we can handle them in a better way. So inside try, what will be doing? Our first thing is to get that API key, because now we need that Revue API key. So let's get the API key. How do we get this API key? So we can use process.env. We have given the key as REVUE, I think Revue API key. Yeah, this is the one. So if I do this, the environment variable is already, the env.local file is already having this API key. So that will be loaded and we should be able to get this API key. Now for this API key to get loaded in the environment variable, you need to restart the service that is running, right? So while we are coding, why don't we just, restart the service so that in the meantime we are back, this is all loaded, right? So this one will be loaded, and then the next thing that we want to do is, like, taking this API key, we are now going to call the API of Revue. So now we are going to add a subscriber. So let us quickly go and see. To add a subscriber to the list, the call is post/v2/subscribers, and we have to pass a authorization header with the token and my token. The token I have already got. Token is nothing but the API key. So let's go ahead and start doing coding for that. So we will do a fetch call. What will that fetch will have? The fetch will first have the URL. So let's have the URL. I'll just copy this URL because it is already there, handy with my notepad. So I'll just go ahead and copy this URL. Yeah, this is the URL /v2/subscribers. And after that, I need to pass few configuration parameters to this fetch method, right? What are the configuration parameters I'm going to pass? I'm going to pass, like, what is the method? The method is nothing but post. Then I have to pass a body. I have to pass this email, right? So I will pass like JSON.stringify and then pass email, email. This is the email that we got. And then the last thing that we want to do is passing the headers. You remember what are the headers to pass? One of the mandatory header is authorization, and in this one we have to pass token on string, then dollar of our API key, the API key value, right? So this is the token that we'll be passing. We'll be also passing, say, content type, like what kind of is the application/JSON. So that's what the fetch is. And fetch returns a promise, so we have to use something called await in front of it, and what is going to return basically a response. So this is what it's going to give me, right? Now I can take this response and do some validations. For example, I can check if response get response dot I think it's status. Yeah, status greater than equals to 400. In that case, simply return res dot status at 400 dot JSON, return a error saying that an issue in subscribing you. So yeah, that message handling could be much better, I'm sure. And then if it is not 400 greater than equals to 400, then think like it is probably a success one. So we'll do a response dot status of 201, which is the code for create, HTTP code for create. And in this case we'll be sending a message, a success message. We can say like, hey, dollar email, you are in, and we mark there is no error in this case as an empty, right? And the last thing that we want to do, if there is some exception happen, we can just do like we can return a response dot status of 500 server error, right, dot JSON, and then we have error colon maybe server error, right. So we have handled everything, we have done everything. Just a recap: if email we're getting as a payload, if email is blank, then we say email is empty, then we get the API key, then we get to call this, we get the response, then we get the email, get the header correct. From here we get a response. If the response rate is greater than 400, then we return like some problem. If it is 201 is successful and created, give a message. If it is error, then it's error. One quick thing I want to highlight over here in this API, like adding somebody to the subscription. Where is this? So check the parameters. Email is required. First name, last name is like you can give empty because it is optional. There is another one is called double opt-in. Double opt-in by default is true. It means every subscriber subscribing to a newsletter need to verify their email. They have to go to email to check the email and verify it. If you make it false, then that verification is not required. So for our demo purpose, so that I can create some arbitrary email and do this demonstration, I am making this guy false. So we'll be putting this and making this false. But for your real use case, please don't make it false because you don't want spammers to spam your newsletter. All right, so we are kind of done with this. The next thing that we want to do is the UI code. Right now, the /API/subscribe should work. If it is not working, we'll debug it out and we'll fix it. So to get our UI code up and running, the next thing that we want to do is to go back to our subscribe.js component. So here we already have a form. We just need to handle this form correctly. So we want to add or handle certain state variables. So in React, the state variables are the variables which is within the component. For example, I have an email box. You type something and whatever you are typing, I want to capture. And after capturing that, I want to send it to my API, the API that I just now written. Once the response comes, whether it's an error coming or successful thing coming, I want to put that into my state variable and manage, right? So for that purpose, I need inbuilt hook called useState. So let's put this useState as a React hook from React. So I have imported this. The next thing that I want to do over here is like declare this state. So I need three things. One is for email, const email comma set email. How this hook works basically. Okay, so we have this state variable, and if you want to mutate this state variable, means you want to change the value of this email, you use this set email. You don't do the mutation directly. So why you have a method also. Now then I want maybe an error comma set error, same useState. All right, and then copy this guy, paste it over here, and then the last one could be success, and then make a set success. All set. So I have all these variables. Now I need to populate. So how will be populating? I'll be populating this based on certain conditions. So what is the conditions? Like when the email, when somebody click on the submit button, right? So first I want to capture the email whenever somebody putting in the input box. So for that, what I'll be doing straight away is I'll be writing a onChange handler. So doing a onChange handler, and let's say change email is my function. And what this change email function does is a very simple function that we're going to write. Const change email is going to take this event so that we can get the value. And what this change email is going to do, the simple function is going to do is like it's going to extract the value email from the event, like event dot target dot value, and then it's just going to do set email to email, setting this email value to my state variable. So that's all it's going to do. So that means this email variable will having every value that users are typing into the email text box, and this value is available anywhere between this return so that we can actually use it. So the next thing that we'll be doing, going to our form, and on the submit of this form, we want to create the subscriber. So on submit, what I'm going to do is, let's say I have a method called subscribe me. Yeah, subscribe me will do. Okay, so yeah, I like to give some spaces around. This looks a little better. Okay, so subscribe me. So let's create the subscribe me function. Const subscribe me, take the event again. Why, we'll know in a while. So when you submit a form, the default behavior is to refresh the enter page on a form submission. We don't want that to happen. We don't want to give that impression. So we want to prevent the default behavior. So I prevent default. The next thing that we want to do is calling our API/subscribe. How do we call? Simple again, fetch, and we will do /API/subscribe, and then comma, okay, the payload, then the API, then the API call is over. So what are the payloads required? Of course, the payload should be JSON.stringify of email. We have to send the email because that is what we are getting in our API end. And then we have our regular stuff like our headers, is content type is application/JSON. And then what we'll be using after that is method. That is nothing but a post method, right? Because you're posting as a body we are sending. Fetch is again return a promise. It should be await. As it is return a promise and it is await, this function has to be a async function. All right. So we are all set, and what we want to do is like we want to take this the response variable res. So we know that our subscribe function takes an email as from the payload, and ultimately it returns an error in a successful message and error. These are the two return that we are expecting. So what we'll be doing from this response, we will be taking out the error comma message. We'll be taking this out right from the response JSON, and then final thing will be mutate our state variable error1 with error, and then we have a set success with this message, right? So we have done our subscribe me. We are calling our API, passing this email, and on the successful thing we'll get this message, on error case we'll get this error. Now we have to use this basically error message and this one, right? So how do we use this error message? So let's go ahead, just below our form here, let's put a simple condition, very simple condition, saying that if it is a success, if there is a success, then we'll put a span and we'll print the success. Else we consider that it's probably going to be an error. Yeah, it's going to be an error, and we will also cover this with the span, right? So this is what is going to come back. We are done our handling of subscription. Let's go ahead and try subscribing people. So we'll go to the app. Some error. So let's see. Okay, so look like we have to give comma, but with our speed of typing we have given a semicolon, comma. Happy. All right, so let's go back to our code again. This will refresh this guy, try to see what is coming back after compilation. So look like it's compiled successfully, so we should be able to see the page just now. All right, so we have this page coming up over here. Yes, it is. Now let me open the Chrome debugger tool, because I want to check the network tab when I'm putting somebody's email ID. So let's put okay, I wanted to go to network tab. Okay, this is the network tab, and let's put arbitrary email, because the verification stops, so you can give an arbitrary email. Let's give hello@email.com. So before I go over there, I just want to show, like in my subscriber list, I have few test subscribers, because so I don't see a hello over here at all. So go hello and do a submit. I see the subscribe call happens and there is an error. The error is kind of same and it fails with 500. So you see that it is 500 is failing, but we are not catching this error anywhere. So the error is kind of same in the subscribe.js, because we would have given a semicolon instead of comma. So this is, I feel, a very good way of learning, because gradually we start catching the error and try to see, like, what possibly can fail and how to kind of tackle that as a solution. So yeah, this is that error that happened. I have handled it now, and then I'll be going ahead and see, this guy should come up in a while. I'll refresh this one. Okay, so let's try again. Let's clean this up. hello@email.com, submit. I have subscribe going on here, C201, and you also say, hey, hello@email.com, you're in. You can style this again with better styling, but it says that this is done. It comes with this response. Now if I go over here, I have 7 subscribers. I'll just refresh this one. The number should be 8, and I should see hello kind of listing over here. So it's 8 and hello is listing over here. You see, you have never come to this interface. Your users never have come to your interface. Assume that this is your website or portfolio. From there, you are able to subscribe directly. But the next step, this is not updating. This is hard-coded. So we are going to get the right subscription count as well right now. So the next thing that we are going to do over here is to get the subscription count, the real subscription count. So let's go ahead and start doing the coding for that. So what we're going to do, I'll be going ahead and writing another API for this. The API name that I'll give as subscriber.js. Okay, so the subscriber.js is an API which is going to return me the number of subscribers, the subscribers count. So I'll go to the API one and API spec and see, like, where is it? List of sent issues, add a subscriber, returns the list of subscribers. Get call /b2/subscribers. Fantastic. So let's come over here, and what we are going to do now is we are going to start writing about the subscribers. So same thing. How do we do this? Your serverless functions writing is like export default. It will be async function just like the before, and then you have a function handler. Same. You can take. In this case, probably you don't need a request to be explicit because we are not expecting a payload or things like that. And then you can, but we need the response for sure. And then what we'll be doing is first, get a API key, right? So as we have done the previous API in much more detail, I'm just trying to make this one a little bit faster. But best case would be, again, put this thing in the try catch and properly handle the error. So process.env.api underscore not API underscore key, review review API key. Then let's make this call, await fetch of and then the options. This is a construct. So I'll copy the URL from my notepad once again. Just give me a second. So it is v2 /subscribers. Yep, this is the one. and then let's start putting the our required stuff. So what is required here? There is no payload because the method is get. So first thing is to put the method as get. Then of course you need to put some headers. One of the headers is mandatory, we know, that is called authorization, right? So what is the value of the authorization is going to be is token, then our API key, right? And then the next thing that we want to do over here is the content type. That will be application /JSON. That's all basically. That's pretty much it. Our call is, and what is going to return is going to return, of course, a response, right? And then what we are going to get, we are going to get a data from this response. Const data equals to await response.json. We know that response.json return a promise, so I this await. And what we are going to do now, we are going to return this response, like response.status of 200, and then return this response. But we are only interested in the count, so let's take the count. Const count. This data will be an array of subscribers who are subscribers for me, like 8 subscribers. So let's do a data dot length. So I have the count now. Great. So as I have the count now, I can actually do a return of res dot status of 200 in this case, the success dot JSON, and then I just simply return the count. That's what required, right? So this is what I am looking for. What I can also make sure to do, I can actually put some response header, right? I can put some cache control header. So the response dot set header, then I will be, let's put that some of the header value, maybe let's do cache control, yep. And then we can actually put the how long this cache should be there, what kind of cache it is. So we'll put it like public max age is, let's put a max age of 1200, and then I'll just explain like why we are doing this. We'll do like stale while revalidate. Just remember this term for now, stale while revalidate. The term is also have a abbreviated form called SWR, stale while revalidate. So we have put that. We'll be using this right away in our UI while we are calling this particular stuff. So SWR is a mechanism through which you can actually invalidate the cache, because what Next.js is going to do, Next.js by default going to pre-render all your pages. It means all your HTMLs are pre-built, and until you build the app again, it is not going to reflect any changes. So in a production site, if your subscriber count get increased, until you trigger another build in a production build, your users are not going to see your new subscriber count, and you don't want that to happen. So while the HTML is pre-built, you want your data fetch to be in a proper way, so that periodically it can look for this change, and if there is a change, it actually can bring those minute data change into your UI, right? That's where the SWR is going to get used. So we'll be using a library called SWR. So so that we can actually manage calling this API in a SWR way than the regular fetch way. The regular fetch way, if we are going to call, our data will see first time get reflected correctly, but if the data changes later point of time, those data change reflection is not going to happen, right? So what we'll be doing, first thing first, we'll open a terminal, new terminal, and we are going to install a library called SWR. So let me try to bring this page up for SWR. Yeah, this is the page where you can read about SWR. I'll put this into the description. So you can actually get started with SWR by doing a yarn add SWR or npm install. So we are going to do that straight away. Okay, so let's do that. Yarn add swr. It's going to take a while and it will be installed. The installation is almost done. It's just linking the dependencies now. Alright, the installation is over. So it's time to start using this swr into our subscribe.js component where our forms are there and we are trying to get things, right? So first thing that we have to do to use is swr, there is a hook that comes from the library that we have installed called use swr from the library swr. Now swr works in a certain construct. So if I go back to the website that I was showing some time back, okay, so it's probably the other page. Yeah. So if I see what swr requires is like there are two things that require to use in swr. One is like the first thing is called the URL that I'm going to call, and then it's something like a fetcher function. The fetcher function could be a simple access call or simple fetch method call. What exactly it does, basically it passes this key or the API to this fetcher function whenever we are actually calling this use swr. So whenever there is a change, so it actually use this API and this fetcher function to fetch this one. So the fetcher function could be as simple as a fetch function like this fetch or maybe a access call or anything. So we'll go with simple stuff. We'll have a simple fetcher function like this and we'll be start using that straight away. So what we'll be doing is like, let's go ahead and create a fetcher function. So for that, so that this fetcher function you can use elsewhere also, let me create a folder called utils, and utils folder, under utils folder we'll be creating file called fetcher, right? I have not saved this one. Okay, let me save this. Okay, so inside utils we'll be creating call fetcher.js. Alright, so in fetcher.js, as I told, like it is a simple fetch function and kind of nothing beyond that. So we are going to get that very soon. Okay, so fetcher.js. So let's do fetcher. So export default, of course, async function fetcher. It can take variable number of argument, and then what is going to do? Very simple thing. Const res equals, we have seen this enough so far. Fetch. That's all. That's pretty much it. And then return res.json. So simple fetch basically. That's what it is going to do. So I'm done with this. Now I'll come to the subscribe, and here we have what we have to do. We will be importing this fetcher. Import fetcher from utils / fetcher. Okay, so I have this fetcher function. Now how will I get the subscriber count? Now see the magic. The subscriber count, how do you get it? Now we don't need any state variable, don't have to manage anything with the fetch and all here. Simply create, simply get this data, use the hook call use swr, pass the key which is like /API subscriber in our case, /API /subscriber, and then slash is not required, and then we'll pass the fetcher. That's all. This is where we are expecting, right? But what we are returning in the data we are returning from the subscriber is the count. So we are expecting a count over here. Sorry, not here. Let's go there. So what we'll be doing is like we'll be getting like const subscriber count equals to, we can do data dot count and then check like if the data.count is there, then you get a data.count, because for a momentarily it might be undefined till it's fetched the data. Just to get rid of all these things, we can use JavaScript's optional chaining. So optional chaining is a feature in JavaScript through which you can do this implicit undefined check, and after this implicit undefined check, it is going to return you the actual value. So now the subscriber count is having actual value. What we are going to do straight away is where we are showing this hard-coded value, where it is 14. I'm going to remove 14. I'm going to put this. That's all. That's going to give us the actual subscriber value. So let me just repeat the things that we have done. We didn't want this particular value to be always still, because Next.js by default does a pre-compilation of things. Everything is pre-rendered. Until the next build happened, you won't get to fetch this data, but we don't want that, because our subscriber count is quite dynamic. Because of that, we are using the technology called SWR. And if you now recollect that, because this SWR is coming from this particular specification, stale while revalidated specification in HTTP. So we are saying we are using SWR, and because of that, we need a React support of it. That's the reason we have used this hook, use SWR, that require your API to pass and a fetcher function we have written. We are getting the count and we are rendering the count. So let's see whether we have any error. No error. And then we'll go ahead to the UI and try to refresh this guy. So let's see whether we get any count, any error, or compiled successfully so far. Okay, so we got the response, but we don't see any subscribers. We see the subscriber call happened. The response is actually coming count as 8, which is right. That means there is a problem in our UI code somewhere which is not showing the subscribers correctly. But you see the beauty of it, you are getting this count, and it's actually returned. So our API works perfectly, but the UI portion is somewhat not working. So let's try to figure that out, like why this is not working. So you can actually do like put quick enough. The father of all debugging is console.log. That's possibly the quickest way that we can try figuring out like what is going wrong. So let's see. Let's print these two values and try to see like what is possibly going wrong. So this will compile. This will go and compile over there. Okay, I don't anticipate any problem. This looks pretty good. So sometime it probably takes some time to refresh this. Let me just go ahead and... Oh, okay. So I see this 8 subscribers. It just took some time to get the data back. There is really no code change that was required. I have given 2 console log over here. I think this will start appearing over here straight away. Right, so the data part is coming count colon 8 and then 8 subscribers coming. So let's go ahead and add 1 subscriber and see like whether it is changing in the real time or not. So let's add som@hotmail.com. Alright, so let's submit. We will not go to source, we'll go to network. It happened 201. So if I come to my subscriber list, I should have som over here, and I am not updating this count directly because not using any state variable yet to update this. But if I refresh this, I think I should get that 9 count, and here also the count should be 9. Som got added over here. I'm expecting the same in the other place as well. Here you go, we have 9 subscribers. So now this count is also happening, right? So we got 2 things working from this newsletter. Now the last thing that we want to do is like get the number of issues and then list down the issues. So if I go to the API right now, what is there is like return the list of item, return the list of sent issues. This is what we want. We want a get of /v2/issues. and it is going to give me a response of an array of these values, like a title of the issue, when it was sent, the URL to the issue, and things like that. Now I don't want to do that coding here. I want to leave it to you for as an exercise. Why don't you try it out? And if you are stuck, I have shared the GitHub link for the complete code, in the description of this particular video. You can always reach out. So let me quickly show the working version that I have deployed. I have deployed this to Vercel, and it is quite easy to deploy things on the Vercel Next.js app. So this app is running over here, exactly the same thing. Yeah, it is also showing, you see that 9 subscribers, and it is also showing the issue. If I click on this issue, it is going to take me to my particular newsletter issue. And Revue is also have some way to put certain colors for your newsletter and issue, so that it looks coming from the same brand. If I follow a green color band, probably, yeah, you see that I'm using the complete green color, so it look like that you're reading the issues almost from the same kind of brand. So that's how the integration is. That's how I'm expecting the things. I hope that you enjoyed this video and you found the things really helpful. If you have any queries or anything, please feel free to reach out to me, on Twitter. My Twitter handle is there in the description of it, or post a comment. Please let me know that if you like the video, subscribe to my channel, so that you get my future videos, because I'm going to post a lot of stuff on Next.js, a lot of cool stuff like this on Next.js. Alright then, take a very good care of yourself, and I'm going to see you on my next video very soon. Thank you very much for watching it, and bye.